Good morning, everyone. To some of you, it might not be morning, but it is to me still for at least another 20 minutes. Excited to have this opportunity to talk to you for a few minutes today. You know, our group is swelling and we're growing by leaps and bounds. People are excited to be a part of this, and more than ever before, I am more excited today than ever before about the Damon system, about what we're accomplishing. I just had an opportunity to spend 5 days in Monte Carlo, and I gotta tell you, the European doctors that were there at this Damon Forum are more excited, more passionate about what they're doing with the Damon system than ever before, and it was evident by many of you. Some of you have joined our group just from me being over there. Exciting things are happening with the Damon system, and one of the great benefits about being a part of this group is that you're going to get inside scoop as to what the innovations are and what's happening with Ormco, with the new Damon 3D bracket, which I have 5 cases going, and I talked a little bit about that at the forum. And you're going to have inside scoops. You're going to have inside scoops onto how you use the new Damon 3D bracket when it comes out. We're launching, and I'm going to say this and very confidently say this, we're launching that bracket at the forum. You do not want to miss the Damon Forum this year in Palm Springs. We're going back to our grassroots where we started the Damon Forum, 18 years ago. And now we get to finally bring out this new technology, which is going to save most of us and help us in our practices be better and have better finishes. So excited to just share just 10-15 minutes here just to share with you some things I presented last weekend at the forum in Monte Carlo. You know, there was about 700 doctors there, and the feeling that was in the room when I spoke and when the other doctor spoke was amazing. It was electrifying. I will just tell you this, I wish I would have videoed it, but when Dwight Damon finished speaking, so he spoke for about 2 to 2.5 hours on the new Damon 3D and the Combi Archwire, and what the benefits were with this new bracket. When he finished, the crowd all stood in unison and clapped, and it wasn't just a gratuitous, hey, good job, but it was about 1.5 to 2 minutes of people clapping. So this new technology that's going to come out is really going to change things. I won't speak as much today on that, but I will in coming weeks be able to talk a little bit more about what this Damon 3D bracket brings to you in your practice and how it's going to help you finish better than ever before. You know, before we get too far into this, let me just say this. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you're welcome to. I have 2 sites. One's my practice site, and one is my personal at Dr. Stuart Frost. Love for you to follow and be a part of what we're doing. We're using social media to help build our practices and make a difference in what we're doing. And so hopefully you'll be able to see some of those things. Take what you want and leave the rest. What I wanted to just spend just a few minutes on was just talking about, I'm going to move this for just a second, is talk about results. Now, this was a slide I used about the magnitude of what is going to happen with the Damon 3D bracket, and it's huge. It really is the evolution of the Q bracket. It's not a replacement because I think they're going to keep the Q and still do the recharge, but the Damon 3D is really the next step in passive self-ligation and that next step of the revolution. You do not want to miss out on it. You want to be a part of it because it's going to make your life easier. It's going to make your finishing better than it ever was before. And I got to tell you, I'm all about not working harder. I want to be smarter. I've talked about that for years, but with where we're currently at, I'm having to work harder to finish my cases more beautifully, and I want to work less, make it more simple, and have even better results before. So what really is going to happen here is the Damon 3D is going to be that next phase in passive self-ligation, and it's going to help us with the rotation issues, with the torque control, and make our cases better than ever before. It really does come down to results. In the meantime, today, what I wanted to talk to you about is this really the holy grail to finishing? I don't think it is, because we still have to put a bracket on a tooth. We still have to get better at managing our cases. So it's going to help us get better results, but it's not the Holy Grail. We've talked about this before. I'll leave this for just a second. I want to go straight into finishing for a second here. I really believe that there are some areas of finishing that are really important. I apologize. I thought I had this queued up and ready to go. But this is really what I wanted to spend just 10 minutes on today, is talking about, after all my travels of being around pretty much almost the globe this summer, from Russia to Australia to Monte Carlo and a few other places, the more I meet with orthodontists, the more they just want to know about finishing. And how do we get better at finishing? How do we take our cases to the next level? And I want to share just a couple thoughts on that, because really it's finishing that is the most important topic that we can talk about. And so after 18 years of artistry with the Damon System, there's a few things that I want to share with you. One is that to be a good finisher, you have to have vision before you ever put a bracket on a tooth. And what do I mean by vision? Well, vision doesn't really have to do with sight. It has to do with being able to see into the future and looking at our cases and realizing what our case could look like before we ever put a bracket on. So this idea of vision really goes back to what Helen Keller said. She said the only thing worse than being blind, I'm going to go back to that so you can see this. Bear with me one second. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight and no vision. You think about that for just a minute here, because all of us, we have 20/20 vision, we see our cases, but really the true test is do we have vision? Do we have vision? And even though Helen Keller had no sight, she had vision into what it took to have favorable outcomes. What do we mean by that? Well, vision, I like to substitute the word for vision, really imagination. And it's really imagining what our case would look like at the end. And so much of our ability to see the end has to do with what our vision is before we ever put a bracket on the tooth. So that's our vision for our treatment planning. So vision, really it's seeing the end result, seeing the finish before a bracket's placed. And if we think about that, that means that we have to know what we're wanting before we ever put that bracket on. What do we want our case to look like? What do we want the end result to be like? And then design our case and the artistry of how we set the case up for that end result. Each patient's treatment plan begins with a comprehensive vision for facial balance and beautiful gingival architectures. So first we think about the facial planning, what do we want the face, what do we want the mid-face to look like, what do we want the upper lip to look like, and what do we want the gingival architecture and the ideal tooth inclinations to look like. That's really where the finishing begins. Now, on a case like this is a case, I've shown this before, we won't go into it, but I want you to look for a minute and you tell yourself, maybe you could even take a piece of paper and write down what it is you want to accomplish in a case like this, because this is what it takes to have vision or imagination into what your case will look like at the end. So write these things down. What do you notice about this smile that you want to enhance? Okay, look closely at her teeth. And for me, now the number one, in my opinion, the number one beautiful reason we use the Damon System isn't about Smile Arc. Many people in our orthodontic community have really got on this bandwagon of Smile Arc protection or Smile Arc, or creating these different types of smiles instead of flat smiles, and I love that. But and more importantly, I believe than Smile Arc is arch width, or the transverse, and that is what drew me to the system back when Dwight Damon first started talking about this in 1997, 1998, is really the arch width. More importantly than Smile Arc, more importantly than other things, is the transverse, that magic of the mid-face. We haven't heard that term for a while, but the beautiful arch width and support that the upper lip gives. Then Smile Arc becomes secondary to arch width. Now, so if you look at this case, what I'm looking at, and hopefully you've written down 4 or 5 things that you see as the final result, but number one is transverse. So we're going to fill these corridors right here with teeth. so a wider, broader smile. And then we want to preserve how much of the upper incisor shows, because the smile arc looks good right now. So that's having vision into what we want the case to look like. Then I said gingival architecture and variable torque, or inclinations of the upper incisors. And when we start being able to have that vision with those key elements in mind before we put a bracket on, then we have this opportunity to create this beautiful smile. And that's my goal. I see this in my mind before I ever put a bracket on. What I hope for you is that you'll start using vision and imagination into your cases, so that before you ever put the bracket on, you have an idea of where you're going. Let's look a little closer. So this was the beginning of that case, and you know, if you have imagination and vision, you'll know that when you line the teeth up, you'll be able to see that the gingival architecture is going to be beautiful. The other part is variable torque, and we're getting better at our variable torque, and we won't talk a ton about that, but variable torque is so important so that we have the right inclinations at the finish. So there's our before and our after. That's using vision to help us create these beautiful smiles. Here's another case. I've shown this before as well, but to take a case where she's narrow, too much gum tissue, and to widen it out, broaden it out, create a beautiful smile arc, and have this end result as what my vision was, then we can go after that and have these beautiful results. Here's another case. This is a patient that came in, and she's already been in treatment before. She's had braces for a couple of years. They pulled upper bicuspids. I'm not sure why. And after they pulled the bicuspids, she still finished flared. And again, so transverse, what do we want the end result to look like? What do we want the front teeth inclinations to look like? Can you envision in your mind what that looks like at the end? And when you start being able to say, okay, I'm going to have a wide, broad smile, the inclinations are going to be right, we're going to have a smile arc, and create this beautiful result, and that's the key. This is, we talked a little about this, but you know, to have a case that's flared and be able to envision what that end product's going to look like, here we go. And that is really the start of our finishing, is having that vision. And there you go. Beautiful upright, beautiful smile arc. Here's another one. You take a case that has gingival asymmetry and poor growth, and to have vision of what we can accomplish here at the end, that is what we're trying to accomplish. Once you know what you want at the end, it's easy to design the treatment to get you to that point. Okay. In this case, we did 4 TADs and have a beautiful result. Now look at the gingival architecture and the hard tissue contouring. That's part of finishing, and that's the end details that get us that beautiful result. Okay. So there's some other aspects as well that come into play here. Look at that beautiful result. Many of the orthodontists have lost vision and imagination and really the artistry of the finish. And unfortunately, many of our cases end up with flat smiles and no vision. And we as a profession have to be better. We have to be better. Here's a case right here, and I want you to look closely at this case. And again, many of you have seen these cases, but I want you to look at it a little differently now. What do you notice about her smile? You notice the collapse of the posterior. You notice excessive gingival display. And what is it going to take for you to start learning to have vision? So here's the vision that I had, and what did it take to create that beautiful smile? Well, we'll have to get into that another time, but there are some key components to it. I'm going to fast forward and give you just a few last keys to finishing, at least for today, and we'll go through this more as we have this study club. Really excited to be sharing this with you. But let me tell you, from my...
Actually, real quick, guys, just to jump in.
Go right ahead, Chase.
Sorry. Hey, what's up? I'm Chase. I know there's only a few of us on here, but 2 of those cases we actually have in the case study library with like complete overhauls, probably 20 to 30 minutes worth of video and a complete write-up. So if you don't have access, or if you haven't learned, or if you want to walk through, shoot me an email or inbox me, and I'll walk you through how to go through those resources, because we got some really good in-depth stuff already built for you guys who have done that part of or are part of that part of the membership. So sorry to jump in there. I think that some people gain a lot of value from the piece that we have there. So awesome. You can continue.
You bet. Thank you. By the way, I have the most amazing team helping us with this Damon System Mastermind. People keep saying to me, how do you have time to do all this? And I don't. But I'm making time because I know it makes a difference in your practice and in your life. And I've got Chase and my son Brad, my nephew Chase, my son Brad, that are helping with this and keeping this very valuable for you. I hear this all the time. I can't finish with the Damon bracket or the Damon system. And I'm going to tell you that if you're saying this or you've caught yourself saying this, then you really can't finish with any system. And I can say that boldly because in the beginning, I couldn't finish with the system either. In fact, I'm going to show you this. What is it that really keeps doctors from finishing well? Is it torque control? Maybe. Is it arch width issues? Maybe. Is it elastic compliance? Is it bracket position? Is it treatment planning and our cases? What is it that keeps our patients from finishing well and our doctors finishing well? Well, let me just tell you that the two most important keys in finishing, besides having vision, number one is bracket placement. I'm going to skip that. I thought I was going to skip that. I know how to do this. Number one is bracket placement. That is the most important key to finishing. And number two is variable torque control. Those two things, if you are not placing the brackets in the right spot or having good torque control, then you can say, I can't finish with this system. But we're giving you the tools and the ability and the principles to help you not use this as an excuse. So I love what at the forum, this is Dwight. I called Dwight. I want to show you this real quick, talking about bracket placement. In 2000, I was struggling with bracket placement, and I was using the D2 bracket, and I called Dwight on the telephone, and I said, I can't finish with your bracket. And I could just imagine now what Dwight's saying. He's saying, Stuart, then you can't finish with any bracket. That's probably what he was saying. But I called him, and I wanted to tell him, hey, can you give me some help here on how to place these brackets? And this is what he said to me. He said, become an expert bonder. He said, there's not everyone is an expert bonder, but you can learn and focus on each bond that you do. And that's what he did. He's taught me to be focusing on becoming an expert bonder. Over the past 18 years of using this system, I realized that its bracket position is the most important, followed up by torque. Now, there's other keys, and we won't take the time to go through these, but hopefully that's given you a little snippet today of what our group is all about. We're all about raising the level of awareness in the Damon system. And what I would give a little call out and action, call to action for all of you. If you're here to get better, if you're here to have better finishes, if you're here to just use the system better, then be involved in the group. You don't have to, participate if you don't want in the case studies and being a part of that membership, where I feel like that really is the key to long-term success in this group. But if you'll participate and ask questions, share cases, whatever you can do, I think you're only going to get better. We'll get better together. And I love the quote from my football coach who said, I lift thee, thou lift me, we'll ascend together. And that's really what this group's all about. So I hope you have a great Thursday. Fun spending a few minutes with you. But please tell your friends to join the group, be a part of it. We're going to have the best online study club we can with the Damon System and our Damon System Mastermind. Have a great day. Thanks.